let's get to the news of the day, Gary. This is an interesting article, obviously from Fight Hype. Headline: DAZN buying the boxing media? Question mark from Paul Magano. I believe is how you pronounce his name. If I mispronounced that, Paul, I apologize. And look, I'm not going to read the whole article. I definitely implore everyone to read it in its entirety. I think it's a decent piece. I'm going to link it here in the live chat for anyone that wants to see it and read it themselves, where I talk about it. Also, want to say that Luke Thomas, a MMA reporter, had a very recent article on Bloody Elbow, or interview on Bloody Elbow, speaking about sort of the same topic. So if you guys want to read that one as well, I implore you guys to read that one as well. And plus, Eddie Hearn had an interview here with Boxing News TV saying that promoters shouldn't worry about journalistic integrity. I implore everyone to watch that video as well. We're not going to play it, though, because just to respect Boxing News TV, a fellow small channel as ourselves, I'm just pushing people to go watch it on their channel. I think that's what they deserve, because it's a good interview. Though I do wish there were some follow-up questions, because they really didn't ask any follow-up questions. But I get it. Access, it's hard to ask hard questions. And look, here's the gist of what's being alleged, what has been admitted, and so forth. The gist of it is that DAZN is looking to acquire, either through direct ownership or investment, of media outlets. They've already officially done it with Sporting News. I think Sporting News Today with Andreas Hale and others there. This is something that I've known about for a while. I thought was public knowledge, but apparently it wasn't. And then we have the alleged investment of DAZN into the Ring Magazine and Ring TV. Obviously, because of the investment of Golden Boy Promotions. Golden Boy Promotions being a majority owner of the Ring. There's a thinking and allegation through this article that DAZN is either looking to, or they have invested into the Ring Magazine. Or ringtv.com, whichever determination or classification you want to use there. And on top of that, the accusation and allegation that DAZN has been paying for the accommodations of certain media members. And Eddie Hearn confirming that he pays for certain media members' hotels and flights. Coogan Cash is obviously of IFL, and he brought up Dan Rayfield of ESPN as two media members. Specifically, he mentioned that he's paid for their accommodations. Now, look, I have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's hard to sort of wrap my mind about where I want to start and end and how I want to frame this discussion, because it's a big discussion. It's one that is, it's one that I think there's a lot of context to it that needs to be explained, that there's caveats to this discussion that needs to be put out, so I'm going to try to do my best here. If I leave anything out, I apologize. If I leave anything significant out, we're definitely going to talk about it again then, because this is an important topic to have as media, as just a boxing community, as a combat sports community. First off, I want to make a caveat. Fight Hype is the one reporting this. Paul Magano is listed under PBC's website as one of their writers, along with people like Sean Sattel and others. Who, again, Sean Sattel, I respect highly. Respect his work. A good friend of mine. I don't have... Let's get my opinion out the way. I don't have an inherent issue with media members taking compensation or just taking any sort of accommodations from promoters and networks on its surface. I have no issue with that, to be honest, just because of the landscape of the industry and how to make money in it. I don't fault anyone for that. What I do fault people for doing is not disclosing that information. Okay? When you are a journalist, when you are a reporter, when you're a writer, when you're an interviewer, whatever it may be, it is absolutely key and essential for you to disclose whatever compensation you're receiving from networks or promoters that may impact your reporting. Like, this is journalism 101. So, like, Paul Magano and Fight Hype being an outlet that has been significantly connected to Floyd Mayweather's career for the last 20 years, there is a level of pot calling the kettle black here, which I have an issue with. But I do want to just say that caveat and put it to the side, because I think that is it's a point to address, but it's a point that does get us off on a tangent that doesn't really address the issue here. And when we talk about media members being bought off or paid for it, I don't want to use it as a monolith as well, because I've seen a lot of people online using that, like Fred Gavin of Sunday Puncher, going out there and saying that, like, basically making the accusation that, like, everybody ringside is paid off. That's just wrong. That just is not true. Like, I've been ringside for tons of fights. I've never received any compensation in any way from any promoter or network. Just have not. I've received compensation from a sponsorship, Chivas Regal, once upon a time with a different outlet. But, again, long time ago. Sort of dialing back. I think this lack of disclosure from certain media members, like Coogan, for example, who went on a very public back and forth online with Fight Hype Ben Thompson and refuting these claims, and then Eddie Hearn coming out and saying, no, I've paid for his accommodations. You can't be doing that, Coogan. You just can't. Okay? And it's one thing to take any sort of compensation from a promoter or network and disclose that, which I think is fine. And it's different from taking that compensation and then denying you've taken it and not disclosing it. That's when we have an aspect of shadiness, an aspect of conflict of interest that gets brought up in terms of media. Because now we have smoked the fire that your reporting has been altered because you are lying about it, because you're hiding the truth. And as a reporter, your basic job is to report the truth. A secondary order is to hold truth to power. What that means is that when we report on the powerful, corporations, networks, promoters, whoever it may be, and this goes with every media or journalistic industry, that we are supposed to put that truth and put it to the face of power, whatever that power may be, and make them face the reality. That's our basic duty. So when Eddie Hearn's out there saying that, look, it's not our job to worry about journalistic integrity, he's right. He is the powerful. He is the one that we are supposed to be adversarial to and to hold the truth to. So of course he's going to want to pay more media members, and same with Bob Arum coming out with Woodsy's article and Michael Woods echoing these statements and saying that he agrees with this concept. I think, Woods, you need to frame it better. You do. Like, you need to talk about disclosure. And the fact that you said that this is okay and didn't add that aspect to it is an issue. Because now I hold you almost in suspicion here, Michael Woods, and everyone here. If Dan Rayfield and the highest order, the highest people in media are getting compensated and not disclosing this information, then of course fans are going to assume people like me and you, Gary, and others are all paid off. And that's an issue. It's a significant issue. And promoters and networks are never going to try to help us on that case. They're always going to be the ones to want to pay us and to compensate us. And as media, we should recognize that. And maybe not accept it with opening arms and an opening embrace. And if you do accept it, that's fine. But disclose that fucking information at the very least. And I don't understand why this is so hard. And the allegations of, like, behind the gloves and IFL. I mean, I was there at KSI Logan Paul, which is the crux of the allegation from the Fight Hype here, is that event. I understand the criticism there. I was there next to Michelle Phelps when she got a promoter's badge and not a media member's badge, which gave her certain access behind the scenes. Like, I saw it with IFL. I've seen it with bigger outlets like Fight Hype even, which makes it, again, add to the caveat that I explained in the very beginning. I don't want Fight Hype being the one to point the finger here. They are the ones that are a part of the issue here. Okay? Paul Magano and Fight Hype are also part of the issue here. Not just IFL, not just Fight Hype. Okay? Not just Behind the Gloves, not just any of these other outlets, even though they all are part of the issue. Okay? And until honestly it takes people like me and other smaller outlets who don't take money because we're not big enough to be offered the money, it's going to take us to really call out the bigger channels. And guess what? I know it's an uphill battle for any of those smaller channels listening right now, but you got to do it. You have to call these things out. Because if you're not taking compensation, and let's say if that's something that you care about, that you don't take compensation, then you have to be vocal here. And you have to be vocal against your fellow media members, which sometimes you're friends with. Okay? But this issue is a multifaceted issue. I know I've been ranting and raving here for a bit, and I don't know if I've been really coherent here. I apologize, but it's just one that gets me upset. It's one that I see every time I go to an event. So I understand the issue and the frustration from fans and media alike. But I also don't want this conversation to be shifted to the way Eddie Hearn is framing it, the way that Fight Hype has been framing it, because right now they're framing it as they're the ones that are the righteous ones in the group, and they're not. They're also to blame here. And there's just a lot of issues with this topic and with media integrity in the sport and just media integrity, period, that I don't know if I can even tackle here for a 2-hour show if that was the single topic. It's a significant issue. And sorry, go, Gary. I've been ranting.
I want to get into that. So, a couple of things. If they're paying ESPN's boxing reporter, if they're paying his accommodations, how does ESPN? Look. It's not like they paid for a small independent journalist to cover a fight, which would be suspicious. They paid for the leader of the sports world's boxing reporter. Like, why would they have to pay his accommodations? Disney could write that check and have no idea the money was gone. Right? Like, that's part of his compensation is to travel. So why would Eddie Hearn pay for that? That tells me that that's not the only thing he's paying Dan Rayfield for. That he's paying him for other things too. I'm just telling you, I don't have evidence of that.
No. And look, I mean, obviously, like Eddie went out there and said, like, look, I take him out to dinner too. We go out for wine. Why wouldn't I take media out for a little bit of wine, red wine? And it's funny. Like Eddie, of course, frames it. And again, check out the interview and all that stuff. But of course, he frames.
Dan Rayfield seriously. First, because I don't think he knows anything about boxing. A, and B, because he's comic book guy. Like, I mean, he's. I don't want to get into that. But like, if obviously you're buttering your bread. There's no reason to pay for any ESPN reporter's accommodation when ESPN covers that check. It's not like he's writing the check out of his own pocket. He's trying to be a nice guy to him. You're trying to get on ESPN's good side using him. Why do you want to get on ESPN's good side? And then, and no disrespect to Beyond the Gloves,
Michelle Phelps.
I bet her. She's cool people. Like, but why?
No, she's nice. Yeah, she's nice.
If it be a promoter's badge, I would take it too. So I'm not knocking her for taking it. Why are they giving someone in the media a promoter's badge? Like, why is that?
Why? Well, it's so how they do it. I mean, like you've been to several fights, but I know you've been to smaller events as credential media. Obviously you have like your media section or badge, and then you have like promoters, and they would just have promoters badge for like VIPs as well. People that need to get behind the scenes and in the dressing rooms, and maybe aren't really the promoters, right? So it's not just. I just want to make that point clear for people to understand how it's put out there. But yeah, I've seen tons of bigger outlets get that special badge, the promoter's badge, so they can go behind the scenes. It happens all the time. Like this isn't out of the norm. And when Eddie's out there saying like, look, we don't ever ask them to do like to cover us in a certain light, he's right. That never happens probably. It's just assumed. That's how relationships work.
If you don't, that access is gone. How about that? Right? Like,
and it's not even just that. Look, like it's like it from a subconscious perspective. If I get stuff from you and we're friendly, or you're going out to dinner, you're buying me wine, you get me special access to behind the scenes and in the dressing rooms and stuff, my natural occurrence is to not rock the boat. My natural human nature is to not rock that boat. It never needs to be stated out loud.
Not Matt. Matt's nature is to always rock the boat, but he's talking about hypothetical. Like
yes. Yeah. That is true. And Darius Copeland saying both passes get you behind the scenes. No, they don't, Darius. Look, Darius, I don't know who you are, bro. You're you have no picture avatar on YouTube. I've been to every major event basically in LA of the last 3-4 years, it seems. Okay, trust
There are
me.
different passes that get you different access to different places, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and also there's certain media passes that don't get you ringside media as well. For example, KSI Logan Paul, I did not have ringside credentials. I had the secondary media credentials, so I had to go sit in the stands. It was fantastic, by the way. Lovely time. Okay, but like, trust me, Darius, I know this. I'm credentialed. You're not, probably. I'm assuming, or if you are, what the fuck you doing here in my live chat, bro? Go do some work.
Yeah, you're breaking some rules. If you're on credential, you're like you're walking backstage. It's like that. Your pass doesn't allow you back there. There's another pass, a promoter's pass, that allows you backstage. Yours allows you in the media section.
Yes. Production crew gets you backstage. Yeah, that's also not what we're talking about here, because behind the gloves is not production crew. Let's just be honest here. They're not. It's an outlet. It's a news outlet. They had ringside seats, and they also had a promoter badge to go behind the scenes. I was there, Darius. I was right next to Michelle when she got her credentials. You were not. I don't understand why people have to argue. People are weird, Gary. Like, I don't understand the need to defend corruption, to use the phrase that everyone loves to throw out, because that's what this is. It's just usually unspoken of corruption. There's no direct conversation of, hey, I'm giving you this access. Please don't ask these questions. That's just assumed.
So there's been like studies on this. When people have a preconceived notion in their head, and that preconceived notion in their head is debunked thoroughly, like 80 to 90% of people actually double down and argue the now debunked side than actually changing their mind. So they had something in their head that they believed to be true, and now you're saying that's not true. So they're like, for 80 to 90% of people, they're like, no, that has to be true. So I have to keep arguing this, even though it's been put in front of me that it's wrong. You can go look up these studies on it. I mean, it's not a small majority. It's a massive majority.
Oh, I'm not surprised with that at all. Ellie's saying this isn't new, though, is it? No, of course it's not new. Like, this has been happening since the day of the dawn of time for media. Like, look up like yellow journalism, Ellie. If you want to like really go down the rabbit hole of like the awful history of journalism and the corruption of journalism in the U.S. or just worldwide, type in yellow journalism. You're gonna just be fascinated by what you read. Trust me here. But this issue is not new. It's not different than what we've been dealing with, I think, for the last, again, 100 years of media. But it's one that does get forgotten of. It's a topic that does get brought up here and there and then gets forgotten about. Why? Because the powers that be, networks and promoters, will do the Eddie Hearn and say, no, this is fine, guys. This is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And most casual fans now that are online just eat up what the promoters say. Right? I mean, that's just how it is. And PSK, don't ever bring up that bullshit person in my chat again. He's scum. He's a piece of shit person. Fuck him. Moving on.
I didn't even see who we were talking.
I'm not. No, he doesn't get any airtime on this show. Fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit person. But Gary, any other thoughts on like? Because obviously, like you're a part of media, but you're a little more out of it than I am. You're, I would say, more of a fan than media, right? Same with like Rob, right? Rob's more of a fan than media. Foo, more of a fan than media. Thoughts from a fan's perspective when you hear stuff like this? Like, does this make you like? How do you develop trust in any media member or media outlet when you hear stuff like this as a fan?
I mean, you don't, right? Like, that's what you got. You have to double check. Like, just because Dan Rayfield says something doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it false, but it doesn't make it true, right? So I want another source for that, right? Like, well, with the old saying in journalism is, somebody reports that their mother said they love them, go check it out. Go talk to their mother. Go make sure they said that. Go get another source, right? But this isn't just sports. I mean, the medium in and of itself is corrupt. Like, if you think this is explicit to boxing,
oh yeah,
there's no way, right? Like, this happens all over the place, right? This happens in, like, I have a friend who covers like shows, like Broadway shows. Okay. I'm sure this happens there too. Like, you write us a good report and we'll let you, whatever is there backstage access. I'm sure this is not specific to boxing, right? But so like that, like, it's like the fact that it's Dan who I don't like to start with. Just like I don't think he's good at his job. I don't think he knows anything about boxing. And that why would Eddie have to pay him off? I mean, he's obviously paying him off. I mean, if this was college sports, Eddie Hearn would be done for what he just did. Like, you realize that, right? Like, if this was like an NCAA thing, and I'm taking him out to buy, if I'm paying for his accommodations and buying him dinner and buying him steak and buying him, do you know how much that guy probably eats? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and I understand why all parties do it. And I guess there's no law against it, so I guess there's nothing you could do about it. But you just can't trust anything that you get. But I never took anything Dan said. Now, if Dan reports something, okay, fine. But if like when Dan gives me his take on a fight, I don't care what Dan thinks. Like I don't doubt a lot of the things that Dan reports. Like when he breaks a story, there's probably some truth to it. But when Dan gives me his hot take on a fight or chats with Dan, I mean, I don't. You know
I think the chats with Dan died, right? He doesn't even do those anymore, does he?
I don't know.
Remember, he tried to convert that into like a podcast and a show, and then
He doesn't know anything about boxing. Like, he's not good. Like, he's a fan, but he doesn't know the sport. Like, he wouldn't, like, when we're talking about with Cortina or LaRon Richards, he can't sit there and break down what he just saw. Like, he doesn't know anything.
Gary, man, like, hey, anytime someone else rants on this show, I get so happy, man. Let's be honest. Ringside reporter saying it's a conflict of interest, to be honest. No, it is. It is a conflict of interest. It's just a obvious one. And it's one that I think that they're hoping that it's so blatant that it becomes normalized. And it kind of has been. Because, like, again, if the number one sports news outlet in the world, ESPN, doesn't give a shit about journalistic ethics, because they clearly don't. Okay, they had a Conor McGregor announcement for his next fight. They literally put his 2 rape investigations at the very bottom of the article. They put a bar brawl he was in, that wasn't really a brawl, above the rape investigations. Like, that's ESPN now. Maybe it's ESPN that was always there. But if that highest level of sports journalism in the United States is automatically, blatantly corrupt or what's the right word? Compromised in a way, then again, just look at the bottom, just keep going down the bottom of sports media. It's just, how are they all not like that? How is all media not like that? Because again, access is so king. Access matters more than anything, guys. And like, again, I didn't link this in the chat, but I really implore everyone to read Luke Thomas's interview on bloodyelbow.com, talking about how media needs to attach itself to power to be successful. That media members, if they don't attach themselves to power, whether it be a network, promoter, fighter, someone of power in the industry, they never really make it that far. And if they do, it's through extremely long and hard work that no one really is grateful for. And he's right. Like, think about like our outlet, not to toot our own horn here. You know, we have worked day in and day out for years now and put out, I think, more substantive content than 99% of other boxing channels. We don't do really any interviews. We don't really care about any of the access. I don't really care about going to events because of that access and because of the dynamic relationship automatically involved with getting access. And it shows. It shows in how hard it is for us to grow as a channel. Because we're not attached to any of those in power. And that means something. Whether it's because casual fans only care about those in power because that's all they see, or whether it's because those in power open the doors for success, it's beside the point. That issue is prevalent for a lot of us small channels out there that are independent, that do go about it the right way. Okay, I'm not saying those channels out there that just spread, gossip and rumors. Fuck those channels. Those channels are equally just as bad. That don't get any of the access, but they only don't get access because they just gossip the whole time. Fuck those channels. That add no substance to the community. Fuck those channels as well. But those of us that are out there actually putting in the good work day in and day out, trying to give you the real news and break it down in a substantive way, it's an uphill battle every time. And that goes in every media industry as well. Not just boxing, goes in MMA, goes in politics, entertainment, movies, TV, Broadway. Every media industry is like that. But if you do not attach yourself to those in power, it is an uphill battle. And it just is. Just is the way it is. Shout out to capitalism. But anyways, Gary, any other thoughts on DAZN, Matchroom, others potentially trying to buy access or buy media outlets, media members, compensation, the likes?
Well, as far as buying Fight Hype and the Ring Magazine, buying a Ring Magazine is kind of a charitable donation right now. I mean, Ring Magazine has been linked with boxing for 100 years, right? For it to go out of business, which I would guess is the other option, is fine, but it's really sad, right? Like, I remember reading Ring Magazine when I was 10 years old. Like, I was the weird kid in school when I was like 10, 12 years old. It was like, bring out your reading material. I'd bring out a Ring Magazine. And now for it to be gone, I mean, no one reads it, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But it would just be a sad day. It's probably, but Golden Boy owned it for how long, right? And I guess Golden Boy still has a stake in it.
They have a majority stake in it.
They still have a majority stake in it.
From my knowledge, yeah. That has not changed.
Okay.
Yeah. From the allegation here, and which makes sense, to be honest, from the Fight Hype article, is that through the investment in Golden Boy promotions from DAZN, a part of that was investing into Ring Magazine, but not in ownership, is the allegation. It's just an investment. Whatever, partnership, ownership, those are, differences here. But they do own outright Sporting News Today. That they do own that outlet right now.
My point was, would it be weird if, say, the Dallas Maverick owned Slam Magazine, which is a basketball magazine? It's a really popular basketball magazine. Like, would that be weird? Do you think the Mavs would get a lot of attention in that magazine? You know what I'm saying? It's weird for a promoter, but again, it's Ring Magazine. It's a nostalgia thing. I don't think. When was the last time you read a Ring Magazine?
I'll be honest. I try to go away from that outlet as fast as possible.
Well, you don't like Golden Boy, but
yeah, I don't like Golden Boy. I think that the fact that this is news now with the Ring Magazine in a way is weird, because it's been news for decades now, in my opinion. That this issue with Ring Magazine and them being compromised as a news outlet. It's been that way for a long time because of the Golden Boy ownership. And the fact that that's never been a big sticking point for the fandom and the community has always bugged me, because that's an issue. You're right. It's the oldest, most treasured magazine outlet in all of boxing history, and it got bought up by a fucking promoter. And let's be honest, guys, a second-rate promoter too. That to me is disgusting. It should be more of a topic of conversation.
At the time, Golden Boy was...
Okay, at the time, maybe you're right. But right now, fuck, second-rate promoter. Fuck him. He doesn't even show up for Virgil Ortiz's or Canelo's press conferences really most of the time. What is he doing? But anyways, Gary, any other thoughts?
No.